away the tilter.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome to a brand new VRRC Championship. Super Touring is what we're casting today, what we will be casting for the next 6 weeks as well. My name is Jack Oliphant, and alongside me, as per usual, same old in terms of the commentary lineup, is Dave Marshall. Dave, how the devil are you?
Yeah, same old. Not feeling too old, but in old cars tonight, Jack, and I've got to admit, very, very much looking forward to seeing these beats out on track.
Yeah, exactly. We've got multi-class, haven't we, for the League of Champions? I knew I was making that mistake. Of course, it's not the League of Champions. We're doing Super Touring cars now. Completely different format. We'll explain all the differences between what you may have seen before on VRRC and what we're going to be doing going forward. But you can see on your screens right now what exactly the Super Touring cars look like. You've got the tracks in front of you as well, the 6 tracks that we'll be jumping to, very classic BTCC tracks that we're going to as well. We've got driver classes to be going through, plenty of prizes in the bottom left-hand side of your screen as well. And, well, the prizes look brilliant as well. If anybody was watching the League of Champions a couple of months ago, you'll probably recognise some of the prizes up for grabs here, including the OBP Hydraulic Pedals, the Rig Sim Race 3 chassis. However, and a few drivers I know who have raced for VRRC for a while have enjoyed this prize, but it hasn't always been it hasn't been an exactly official prize. But 2 BTCC VIP hospitality tickets. I believe that's given to us by our friends at PowerMax Racing PMR, so big thank you to them if I'm correct. And plus you get Driver of the Round Day. Driver of the Round is back, and this time, unlike the Academy, it means prizes, doesn't it? We got the PowerMax car balloting pack back with us, which was part of the Driver of the Day prize back months and months ago for the League of Champions, so it's great to have them back.
Yeah, it is indeed, and you know what, we've got a fair grid to try and pick out one single driver, so yeah, it's not going to be easy, but yeah, you're exactly right. Fantastic prizes, and a big thanks to PowerMax who's helped put some of them together, especially with the VIP hospitality. Huge thanks to them.
Yeah, and if anybody out there is wondering what on earth those 3 cars up ahead and don't know what the Super Tourings are, there's the Volvo S40, the BMW 320i STW BTCC car, and the Nissan Primera P11 BTCC car as well. All part of the Super Touring sort of 90s classic, late 90s, with the fantastic real-life drivers that have been in them, and we'll be talking all about that as we're going forward. Before we get going, maybe you want to have a look at what exactly one of these cars looks like on a track from a driver's perspective. So, we're going to go to a hot lap, courtesy of Dave Marshall.
So across the line here for round 1 of the PowerMax Super Touring Car Championship powered by VRRC. Braking super hard down to 3rd gear for turn 1, being careful on that throttle not to push that front end onto the grass. Super tight line down through the trainer curves here, grabbing 6th gear absolutely flat, a really fast section of track, and then down to 4th in a straight line, and then getting the car rotating super early on the throttle to get the best speed possible up the hill out of the old hairpin. Now up to McLean's turn 7. Really tricky corner, early on the brakes, down to 3rd, get off them to allow the car to carry the speed through the corner, and then up to the hardest corner for me on the track, Coppice, third gear, blind apex. See, I miss it slightly there, but still carry good speed, and then grabbing fourth onto the back straight here. Good chance for a little bit of slipstream, possibly a cheeky move into the last chicane. Braking just on the crest, down to third gear, getting off them, and then a little bit of throttle just to get that diff to load up through the bumps. Little short shift into fourth, and then across the line. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday night from 7:15 on VRRC's Facebook and YouTube page.
Brilliant hot lap there provided by Dave Marshall of the Super Touring cars. And Dave, obviously you were taking us around for one of the laps in one of the cars there, weren't you? But really we've got three to choose from, and everybody has chosen their own specific car. Two of them are front wheel drive, one of them is rear wheel drive. What have we got to play with here? What are we going to be expecting to see? Some of the characteristics, I suppose. Let's start with the BMW. What characteristics can we see, or can we expect to see from the BMW as we see Jack McIntyre in the BMW just spinning off at Coppice there?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the traits of the BMW. I think everyone's aware of the BMW on a wet day, and they are a bit notorious with getting the back end out. But yeah, all the drivers, there was an infinite amount of cars to choose from, as long as it was within them three cars. So it didn't matter whether, you know, all the grid was full of Volvos, all the grid was full of Primeras. The drivers had free reign of which cars they wanted to choose from, and as much practice as they wanted to do before they chose the car. So a driver basically can't say, well, I couldn't choose the Primera, because he could. So we've covered ourselves in that manner. But yeah, all the cars have definitely got different sort of characteristics and different traits. So the BMW is obviously going to be a rocket ship off the line, and I'll probably imagine, you know, it can probably creep forward of nearly 2 grid spaces just on the line because of the traction it has. See John Brennan just getting nicely through the chicane there. Volvo basically has the trait of it's a little bit more agile than the Primera, but the Primera's diff is really strong, so it can pull out of corners, and it'll be another good starter in front wheel drive. So yeah, cars have different traits, but they're all very, very similar on outright lap time as well, and it just depends on the characteristic of a way a driver drives, if that makes sense. So, you know, some drivers just get in a front wheel drive and they just really struggle because they like to use the power to rotate the car. Other drivers, you know, don't really like that because they feel they're going to lose the back end. So yeah, different traits of cars, different traits of different drivers, and when you get a perfect mix there, you end up with lap times very, very close together. And I think if you look at the moment, John Brennan is a little way up the road at the moment with a fantastic 107.6. That is blistering pace. In fact, I think that's probably up there one of the fastest times we've actually ever seen in the server regarding lap times. So very impressive. But then back over, look at how close that is. Jack McIntyre in the Beamer, 4 tenths off the back of Brennan, but Mark Fletcher in the Volvo just over 4 tenths back. Tom Dadswell 5 tenths back, Chris Shepherd 6 tenths back, Jack Smith 6 tenths back, Scott Bugner 6 tenths back. So it's leading up to be a very, very close race indeed here.
Yeah, and it's quite nicely, the balance of power, you could argue, has been quite nicely balanced, really, because you've got Volvos in the top 3, so one maybe argue that they're slightly quicker, but I think the drivers are just pedaling them quite well. Then you've got BMW, then you've got Nissan, and then you've got Volvo, and of course, actually, Jack McIntyre, it's not a Volvo in the top 3, is it? It's a BMW in second place right now.
Yeah,
so
he's pedaling that very well.
Yeah, he has, and although Dadswell has just got into second place and with the S40, so we're going to be constantly talking about this through the season, because I think we were in the League of Champions, and the GT4 was the only mixed class event that we did in the League of Champions last year, and realistically, we're not back to mixed class, but we are mixed car, multi-car almost, isn't it? So it's going to be a bit difficult for us to sort of keep on top with what's going to be quicker where and who's going to be quicker and what. But in essence, they should all be pretty much level, and it'll just come down to who gets used to their specific car. I don't know if they can change at all through the season. I haven't seen the rules and regs.
No. So the cars are locked in for the drivers, but you know, not only have we got different cars in this championship, we've also got different tyre compounds. So you can probably see on the timing tower to the left there, Tom O'Farrell, who's done our broadcast, has very kindly put in what tyre compound they're currently on. So in qualifying, you'd imagine everyone is out on the softest compound, so it's got a little S next to the name. But then we're going to the race, and you've got a choice of soft, medium, or hard tyres. So it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to maybe gamble on going on their mediums and seeing whether they're going to last the entire race, or whether someone plays it safe, goes hard, and then maybe has a little bit more pace at the end of the race. And this is yet again another advantage to that BMW. These front wheel drives, they're over 300 horsepower, very hard on them front tyres. By the end of 20 minutes, that car will be struggling. The BMW, with its 50-50 weight distribution and powering the rear wheels instead of getting the front to do everything, it's just going to make that car a lot more balanced, and as long as they can stay in the running during the race, it could be a really strong car towards the end.
Whose idea was it to put all these different variables into a race? I struggle to keep up with the actual what's going out there on track, and let alone starting a new championship with all these different rules and regulations and liveries out there. But we'll get used to it.
That would be my bad.
Yeah, exactly. I'll blame you. We'll completely blame you. But hopefully the spectators will thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm sure the drivers will as well. And I think it's clearly advertised well to a lot of drivers, hasn't it? Because we have got a whole host of new drivers. A lot of people will look down the left-hand side of the screen. They'll see Jordan Brennan and Jack McIntyre and Chris Shepherd and Scott Bugner and Felvis and all those drivers, and anybody who's a keen watcher of the VRRC and what we get up to here in organising the Academy and the League of Champions and the Mini-E Series and all this sort of thing will be familiar with a handful. However, I'm pretty sure Dadswell, he's new to the server. Beard, Powell, as well as Scott Thorne, I believe. So there's a whole host of brand new drivers, and they've come in and they seem to be enjoying what they're doing, because they've turned up in their dozens and decided to sign up and give this Super Touring a go.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to get behind the wheel of one of these beasts, if I'm honest? Doing that hot lap was one of the most fun hot laps I've ever done. You've got a screaming 5-cylinder engine under that bonnet, a sequential box. It's just everything a driver wants to drive, in my opinion. But yeah, so Altitude Esports, so the newcomers to the series, they've got drivers in both gold and silver, so there's another thing we're going to have to touch upon before the race gets underway with the driving classes, but nice to see them representing in both classes there. So Mark Fletcher doing a very good job representing Altitude Esports, already in third place in qualifying session.
Yeah, and it's we haven't been able to present who's in what class on the time on the left-hand side, so I'm very quickly going to read through the gold drivers. So if you are listening and you want to take note of who your favourite driver is and where you're expecting them to be, well, these are the gold category drivers. Ashley Beard for Altitude Esports, Chris Shepherd for Independent, Jack McIntyre for Rocket Sim Sport, Jack Smith for DK Power Racing, Jordan Brennan for Riggs Esport powered by Liquid Molly, Mark Fletcher for Altitude Esports, Matt Webb, Independent, Scott Bugner, SSB Racing, and Tom Dadswell, Altitude Esports. Those 9 drivers are all in gold category. Everybody else, which is the easy way of doing this, everybody else is in silver. Okay, there are about 11 or 12 drivers all in silver, so there's slightly more silver than there are gold. And effectively, if you are a keen watcher of the Academy and everything we do here at VRRC, if you watch the Academy on a Wednesday night and you see some of those drivers, the majority of them are in silver. That's how we're going to be approaching this, isn't it, Dave? Because we can't, when we're watching the action, it's very difficult for us to very quickly see gold versus silver, silver versus silver, gold versus gold. So we're just going to be going off memory of who's in the Academy.
Yeah, I mean, there is a very small badge on the boot lid explaining which category each driver's in, but also the other easy way of telling it is look at what colour the wing mirrors are on the car. As long as they don't get taken off, you've got gold drivers that obviously gold mirror caps, and silver drivers have got silver mirror caps. So that's the easiest way we can explain as well on screen to quickly determine which driver is in which class.
I didn't clock that, to be fair, but that is very useful feature. But of course, this is touring cars, so we'll likely see them flying off the circuit and lying on the inside. But yeah, we'll still enjoy it. There is still, although everybody's thinking, oh, touring cars, rubbing as racing, push to pass, very popular in these days as well, super touring. We do obviously have the normal traditional systems, and it will be held up to normal VRRC standards, so people will have to behave themselves, even if the likes of Jason Plato and Matt Neal didn't back in these days. So they'll be held to a higher standard than those guys ever were. Right, we've explained the majority. We've taken 7 minutes to explain everything we need to explain. Qualifying is about to tick down to 0, so let's very quickly look at the top 10 as it stands. Jordan Brennan currently tops the pile at 0.3 of a second ahead of Jack McIntyre, which is a pretty monumental gap considering those two drivers are actually pretty much constantly next to each other. Then you've got Mark Fletcher in 3rd place, Dadswell in 4th, Webb in 5th, and well, the top 4 separated by about half of a second, which is quite incredible. But if you have to look all the way down to Beard in 10th to be the first driver outside of a second gap between themselves and Jordan Brennan. So really excited as the checker flag drops. There we go. Powell goes up to 9th position. So now actually the entirety of the top 10 are within a second of Jordan Brennan, who has just put in a purple sector 3 as well. Will Powell, all 3 sectors are green for him. As we look at Jack McIntyre coming across the line, as you know, that's Mark Fletcher, about to come across the line, sits in 3rd place, still can't improve to overtake Fletcher. Shepherd, I believe that was Smith going down the order just a touch. People stopping out there on circuit, but in essence, qualifying is pretty much done unless Webb and Smith can really pull something out the bag. It's going to be Jordan Brennan who'll be on pole position.
Yeah, will do indeed. And I tell you what, Will Powell has also done a great job of getting provisionally pole for the silver category as well, just managing to pip Kyle Velvis there in the very last stages of qualifying as well. So this is a really, really tight grid going forward into race 1. This could be carnage.
It could well be, but two people will hopefully not see carnage are the 2 drivers that you actually have to chat to now, and that is our pole position drivers for both gold and silver. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, so we'll go straight to our silver pole position finisher, Will Powell, just managing to get a decent lap in there right at the end of qualifying and managed to pip Kyle Felvis for provisional pole in silver class. Going to be difficult from that midpoint in the grid though, isn't it? I believe Will might be struggling with mic issues. Do you have your mic unmuted, Will?
He's planning the silent but deadly approach here, I think.
Well, we might manage to grab a word with Will a little bit later
Hi,
on.
Dave. Is that any better?
Oh, there he is. There he is. So
There we go. I'm a newbie to all of this, guys. I'm a newbie, but I'm there. Sorry to keep you. Yes, middle of the grid. I heard what you asked. Tough position to be going from, but going to enjoy it, and we'll see how we go.
Well, congratulations and good luck going forward into race 1. And we'll move forward straight on our pole position finisher, John Brennan, managing to get that Liqui Moly car nearly 3/10 up the road from anyone else, basically. I mean, you must be reasonably happy with how that's gone.
Yeah, that was good quality, to be fair. I think I went quicker in that than I did in practice, which was quite good.
Yeah, we did actually notice that. We said when you put that lap on the board, I think you were around a 1:07.7, which was still blisteringly fast, but then managed to go and put the fastest time out of any of the practice that's gone on in qualifying. It was just getting that perfect line and getting in that zone, and you managed to put that time on the board.
Yeah, the lap wasn't the best. I was still finding time on other laps, but I just couldn't put it together. But the time was there, so it must have been alright.
Well, huge congratulations on putting it P1 on the grid. I take your strategy for the start is just, get the best start you can and then just get your head down, not really battle too hard.
Yeah, obviously we've got to watch out for Jack on the start. He'll probably get the jump off the line, but needs to keep ahead of the other Volvos and see what we can do.
Yes, that infamous rear-wheel drive alongside you on the grid for the start line. It will be difficult out at turn 1, but huge congratulations, Jordan, on putting it P1 in qualifying, and good luck going into race 1.
Cheers, thank you.
And that was our pole position drivers, both gold and silver. We haven't got that much time, about 2 minutes before we go into it. So I suppose, Dave, it's quite odd, isn't it, really? Because at the beginning of most championships, we only have a small amount to talk about throughout the entirety of sort of qualifying and everything like that. We're almost trying to find things to talk about. And here, we're actually trying to make sure we've ticked all the boxes that we have talked about everything we need to do. But what we're expecting, though, is a continuation of the amazing racing that we've seen in the League of Champions a couple of months ago, and obviously the Academy. I mean, last week's Academy and at Cadwell Park a couple of weeks ago as well. It's been pretty sensational. We're hoping all of that transfers, everything they've all learned and everything they've ever sort of experienced here at VRRC transfers into this amazing race that we're about to see here at Donington.
Yeah, exactly that. And this is as you say, a bigger grid. It's going to be a lot busier, hustle and bustle. And also, we've got a little bit of strategy that might creep into this. If one of them silver drivers or two of them can start to get the way into that gold pack, that then puts a gold driver as a buffer between them and the rest of the grid. So we might see a few drivers really actually trying to progress a bit through the grid, even though they're not directly racing that class of driver, just as a bit of tactics to give them that safety buffer. But, you know, it's going to be a really interesting one to see what drivers are going to do to reactions. But interesting enough to hear Jordan there, he's already worried about that BMW that's starting next to him on that start line. This is going to be a really hard job for Jordan to do anything defensively to stop that Beamer coming through, but looking forward to seeing what he can do about it.
Well, especially as McIntyre may well be on the soft tyres, and I can tell you that Brennan is on the mediums. So off the line, the softs are obviously going to have that slight advantage. The rear-wheel drive is going to have a massive advantage, and the rear-wheel drive BMW takes care of the tyres a lot better than the Volvo as well, which is why he's had to go on to the mediums to counteract that. Matt Webb, by the way, is one of only a few drivers who've gone on to the hards. So there are different tyres. We will keep you up to date as we go forward because, of course, the lights are coming on. That means the 90s engine notes are rising. Super Touring is back at Power Max and VRRC, and we are away here at Donington. Jordan Brennan with a decent start, but you can't stop a rear-wheel drive off the line here at Donington. Those soft tyres have worked an absolute treat for Jack McIntyre as he tries to fly around the outside of the first corner. I'm not sure he's actually managed to hold on to it, though. And no, he hasn't. He's had to slot back into second place as Chris Shepherd goes into third. And Fletcher's dropped all the way down to fifth as they go down Hollywood and into Craner Curves for the first time here. These drivers, I mean, I tell you what, we are getting flashbacks of 90s here. If anybody was a fan of the touring cars back then, this is very odd to see and very odd not to hear another voice over the top of it as well. As a driver into the barriers on the outside, and who is that exactly? I think it's Luke Hobson. That's really gutting. Matt Webb in the thick of it in the action here, fighting for 8th place against Scott Bugner and Carl Felvers. But I have to say, very impressed with Jordan Brennan's ability to get ahead of McIntyre and stay ahead there.
Yeah, so I think that was just a little bit of commitment from the front-wheel drive car with them softer tyres. Obviously, if he lost the back end a little bit there, he's got that security. You just plant that throttle. And here's Will Powell looking for a move around the outside of Kyle Felvers, down into chicane. Braked early, he's going to tuck back in. And I tell you what, this is a great battle starting already for this title for the Silver Championship.
Yeah, the Silver Championship will be something that we're going to have to be keeping an eye on. But what I love to see as well is the Silvers mixing with the golds, and we haven't even said that there's going to be what the reverse grid plans are either. We'll leave that for a second because first we've got to focus on Luke Weston getting past Phil Regan here, going through the first corner. They're going to try and maybe fight back against each other down the Craner Curves into Old Hairpin. I always want to say Cascades, but that's Alton Bar because Kenny Press looks like he may well have been trying to take it as Cascades and flies off into the left barrier, unfortunately. That involves Nicky Taylor up to 16th position. Luke Hobson going past Kenny Press as well, so I think maybe Kenny Press has had a problem. And there is Simon Thorpe actually off the circuit, so plenty of drama down at the bottom end of the field. No such drama for the likes of Jordan Brennan and Jack McIntyre. Chris Shepherd has got himself into quite a healthy third place. Dadswell and Fletcher getting nice and close with each other as they go down towards the final chicane, as they hit the curves on the right, hit the curves on the left. There's no silly tyre barriers on the apexes here. It's just take what you can and run away with it, basically.
Yeah, we won't touch upon them stupid car killer tyre barriers that they put on the inside. We'll brush over that. But yeah, the Altitude boys doing very, very good here in 3rd and 4th place. This is where we might see them actually really try and work together. Oh, this collision! That is, who's that? That's Scott Bugner into the back of, I believe it was Jack Smith. I tell you what, fair play Jack Smith for getting that car turned round, no collision, and managed to keep that going. Very, very good recovery indeed. I'm only saying this, I'd imagine that was probably the rear-wheel drive slightly slower out of the corner and caught Scott Bugner just out by surprise there a little bit. But as I said, these Altitude boys doing very, very well indeed, but they don't want to be slowing each other down, so that there could be tactics of Dadswell letting Fletcher through, and we might see a little bit of bumping here on the straight just to try and get Mark Fletcher a little bit closer to the back, Chris Shepherd's car. That BMW going very, very well indeed.
Yeah, exactly. But, oh, I'll tell you what, we'll go back to this. Here's Zanatechi looking up the inside of a two-way battle between Beard and Thorn. Thorn on the outside, there's always going to be contact as Zanatechi showed his nose there. May well have been a bit smarter to come out of it, but that wouldn't be touring cars if he had, wouldn't it? So Zanatechi goes through, Weston goes through, Regan goes through, and Will Powell falling down the order, unfortunately. Qualified really well, but looking up the inside, hard on the brakes there's the BMW. It's not going to happen, and Zanatechi gets turned around. And I have to say, I had two really keen notes. One of them was Zanatechi, one of them was Smith, and neither of them have had a very good race so far. Let's hope that the second race can go a little bit more ways. A few drivers getting a little bit squirrely down Craner curves and up the inside of Old Hairpin. Will Powell showing his name, showing Motus One Machine right at the inside. That is not happening thus far. Thorn just holding off that attack. There has been some elbows out racing so far as Dadswell going through. Fletcher going through on Chris Shepherd. Dadswell is following. Altitude Esports are certainly getting up there. Chris Shepherd, he did well at the beginning, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold this around the outside. Is he going to try and use one of the Altitude Esports to box him in? They're going for an overtake on each other. That could really help Shepherd as he bounces into the back of them. And here comes Webb to overtake him. So Shepherd has really gone from third down to sixth on this opening, not opening lap, but this fourth lap.
Yeah, Chris Shepherd just getting boxed in there a little bit by the Altitude. Obviously, we saw the Altitude boys trying to stop it from running into each other, which backed them up a little bit. And Chris Shepherd basically didn't really have anywhere to go and keep that momentum, so he had to back out of it a little bit, and that's just allowed Matt Webb to show his nose. But I tell you what, Chris Shepherd showed some really good pace there on the opening lap, so I think he's still definitely a form to battle with here going forward in the race. As you see, trying to get the overlap on the back of Matt Webb going up out of the Old Hairpin. What fantastic racing that was. Nice to see the BMW rear wheel drive really giving a hard time on these front wheel drives with the Primera and the Volvo just up ahead.
Yeah, it's all action, isn't it, really? And Chris Shepherd's going to have to use all of his sort of wise sim racing acumen to try and just gauge himself down here, calm it down just a touch, and try and attack going forward. Remember, we have mentioned a couple of times that the front-wheel drive cars, especially the Primera, is a little bit heavy on the tyre churning. Yeah, after about 15 minutes, you could really see their lap times fall off a cliff, whereas the BMWs might only go for a slight tumble down a gentle decline. So it's really crucial that the BMWs stay in the mix really early on if they can. That's exactly what Chris Shepherd did. But as soon as he was overtaken, Webb and Dadswell and the Volvos just absolutely pulled away as Nicky Taylor has been overtaken by Will Powell, a recovering Will Powell, who, remember, did qualify in the top 10, ended up having a little bit of bad luck and fall down the order. And Nicky Taylor is one of those drivers, a silver driver, that we see in the academy. We saw at the end of the League of Champions, and he's not afraid of getting his elbows out, even if he's in the top championship or just the academy. And I think that's about what we're going to see here. As Nicky Taylor gets a great run through Old Hairpin, and as they dive right into McLean's, I don't think it's going to be enough. He's going to go for that cutback. He is. What does he have at the top end of Coppice here? He's got the inside line. That's what he has. And I think it's going to be a sharp break, although it's really taken a little bit too tight. He's scuppered a lot of speed there, and Powell did a fantastic job to carry around the outside. I've tried to go around the outside of someone there before. I ended up in the kitty litter. Oh. Not quite as bad as that, though, and that is Chris Shepherd spinning around. I've done that as well and written off a car into the tyre wall. Luckily, Chris Shepherd didn't, as he's down into ninth, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant that you refer to real-life experiences. As you see, chaos on track here. But Will Powell having an absolutely great battle with Nicky Taylor. Nicky Taylor's showing an outside line here, looking for that undercut up the inside of Will Powell. Will Powell's just managed to get on the Powell, though, and he's defending this go-down Craner curves. But I tell you what, we're seeing Paul Zanatechi battle with the back here of Luke Weston. You've got to remember, this is a full reverse grid, so this is actually looking very, very good for Paul Zanatechi. I know he's had a bit of a disastrous start here in that bright green, should we say, snot car maybe. That doesn't sound very pleasant, actually, does it? Just let's say a bright green car. But yeah, so we've got this reverse grid race, and I tell you what, the pace he showed at the start of the race, very unfortunate to get the tap. He could be a real contender for getting that early breakaway in the second race and having a really good second race result.
I won't have you calling it snot coloured. You're talking about looking good for Paul Zanatechi. It was designed by his younger cousin. You were the one who told me that.
Oh, yeah, no.
If you look closely enough, for anybody out there, wouldn't it? If you look closely enough on Paul Zanatechi's car, you will see inspired by Oscar just written along one of the back pillars, and it was because it was designed by his young cousin. So really nice to see that. Hopefully they're watching. If so, hello Oscar. I don't know your second name. I'm going to guess Oscar Zanatechi.
And can I just say, thank you for designing a car that stands out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It makes it so much easier for us rather than some generic livery. It looks awesome, Oscar. As Jack Smith, also in a pretty standout kind of livery, though. To be fair, he's actually one of the drivers that I do have some more information on. Apparently, he's an engineer at SimTrack, the local simulator in Ginetta, so Ginetta's own simulator, although they do supply sim experience and sim coaching to a number of different series, including Caterhams and Minis and GTs and everything like that. But yeah, there's Jack Smith working with SimTrack. So if you're around the East Yorkshire area and you feel like you need some coaching in a high-end driver simulation and instruction centre based at Ginetta, of all places, you'll probably see Jack Smith there working on the sim models. So he's very familiar with not only Assetto Corsa, because that is one of the softwares that they do use, but also pretty handy in the sim. And apparently he's one of the he's just as quick, if not slightly quicker in some situations, than James Kellett, who is a very well-known racing driver in the sort of British area of racing. He's entered a couple of GT4 Super Cup rounds this year and won them. He's also the Ginetta GT5 champion, and he's jumped into a couple of GTs as well. I think it was the Brit car he was racing in Ginetta's as well. So, yeah, plenty of high-level stuff, and Jack Smith probably had a few tips off James as he went into this championship. But, yeah, excited to see what they can do. Unfortunately, had a bit of a poor start, but let's see about him going forward.
I tell you what he is doing though, Jack, because he's starting to battle now a little bit with Nicky Taylor just up ahead. That's actually meant Will Powell has managed to get a little bit of a breakaway. Remember, Nicky Taylor was having a really good battle with him there and starting to look like he was going to make a move, as this is Scott Thorne going down the inside of Chris Shepherd. So actually a silver driver going for a move on a gold, and Chris Shepherd just looks like he's lost a little bit of the front end on that car, on them soft, so maybe soft wasn't the best tyre to go for in this circumstance. McIntyre up in second place in the BMW with them mediums on, so managing to make that work.
We've seen a lot of people in the YouTube chat being hashtag Team SmartFi. Absolutely no idea what it means, Dave. Any insight? Otherwise, someone's going to have to explain it to us on the chat. But I'll tell you what, explain it in a second, because Nicky Taylor has been overtaken by Jack Smith.
Yeah, Jack Smith has SmartFi on the side of his car, so I'm going to take it. Judging on that, they are rooting for Jack Smith. So yeah, nice to see the community really rooting for a driver, and you never know, could end up with driving the round with this performance.
Yeah, exactly. I probably didn't catch that initially because it said his team is DK Power Racing, which has nothing to do with SmartFi, is it? So, yeah, that may be well the case. Hopefully someone will clarify that in the YouTube chat, because it's always great to have an interaction with you guys in the chat as well. But he's doing very well here into 12th place. Obviously, he didn't have quite at the start he wanted. But, crucially, anybody who's watched VRRC before, you're probably used to the slight change. Well, you're probably used to the format, but there's a slight change to the format. The format for our race day evenings is 2 races, 2 20-minute races, plus obviously the 15-minute qualifying and the hour practice just before that. But normally it's a top 10 reverse grid in heat number 2. But today, and for this championship going forward, we're going to be doing a full reverse grid. That's not a full reverse grid by class, so the golds get swapped and the silvers get swapped. It is just everyone gets reversed, so all 19 drivers will be reversed. So if it finishes like this, Brennan will go 19th and Kenny Press will go into first. So it doesn't really matter if you had a poor race 1. You can try and claw a little bit of pride and a little bit of points back in race number 2, which hopefully will make it an exciting championship day, because we quite often do a top 10 reverse grid, and it's so exciting we thought we might as well take it to the max.
And honestly, doing a full reverse grid exactly does what you said. If anyone has a particularly bad race 1, really gives them a second bite of, being able to pull at least a good result from the weekend. Sometimes if you've had a really bad result and you end up down in 15th, 16th place, and then only the top 10 get reversed, you feel like you're on the back foot the whole way through. So really trying to make the championship go all the way to the last round before it's decided. That's the aim.
David Kempson has come into the chat and let us know that Jack Smith and Simon Thorpe are the SmartFi cars. So there we go. That's
McIntyre.
cars. Oh, that is a bit of a snap there by McIntyre, but a big props to Mark Fletcher, who's managed to catch up to McIntyre in the first place. There was a huge gap between the second place driver and these Volvos, but it's just been clawed back here by the Altitude Esports cars. Fletcher getting past Dadswell early on, Dave. You said it may be a team tactics. If it was or it wasn't, it doesn't matter because it seems to have worked, doesn't it? And if Fletcher can upset McIntyre just like he did through the old hairpin, although McIntyre stayed ahead, this will invite Dadswell to try and bring up as well. I don't think we've got a team championship, but these two drivers are probably working as a team as McIntyre goes wide out of the final chicane as well. Doesn't seem to have hampered him too much, but he's certainly feeling the pressure. Maybe the BMW is a little bit more of a handful in an actual race situation than he was expecting.
Yeah, I think this is probably a case of Mark's managed to break away from Dadswell and he's got his head down and he's got his target right on the back of McIntyre. But I've raced McIntyre enough times to know if anyone can cope with this sort of pressure, Jack is a very strong driver indeed. So he's just going to drive within himself. I'm saying that was a bit sketchy on the previous lap, but you don't realise how much car control that takes to keep this BMW straight when it gets a little bit of snap oversteer like that. So great piloting of the car going on here. This is going to be a fantastic battle. 5 minutes left of the race and we've got Mark Fletcher and Jack Mark almost bumper to bumper. This is going to be fireworks, absolute fireworks.
Yeah, with 5 minutes to go, it is worth noting. Oh, Beard's just got past Felvers. Jordan Brennan has checked out. You'd be forgiven for thinking that was actually the fight for the race lead, but it isn't, as Carl Felvers and Beard are actually going side by side with each other now. In fact, yeah, that is Felvers and Beard. Felvers looking at the inside. He sort of thought about going back behind him and thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it a go. And to be fair, great racing between the two of them as they go side by side through the final chicane. So many times in sim racing in real life, we see that going horrifically wrong. But here and tonight, Felvers and Beard have done a great job. And to be fair, Felvers has actually made it work as they go through the first corner. Felvers is in the race lead. Can you imagine? 7th place ahead of Beard. It's not over yet, though, Dave. It's not over yet, because as they go through Craner curves, it's Beard was looking to have a little bit of a bite back, but through Old Hairpin, it's still Felvers, but Beard gets the better run. Brilliant driving, brilliant racing. I'm sure they both have the grin on their face come the end of this one. That's what we hope anyway, as they climb up the circuit, up the hill towards East Midlands Airport. It's going to be Beard into 7th position, but again, Felvers just carries that momentum and cuts off the corner, cuts off the front end. It's starting to get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit snappy now, these two drivers, as they go round Coppice and through the exit. No, they're gonna do it again. They're just gonna basically go side by side for the next 3.5 minutes. Again, Beard in the race lead, but we saw Felvers dive to the inside last time. He's gonna do it again. No, a little bit too far back. And take a breath.
I tell you what, fair play Ashley Beard, round the outside, round Coppice. That's one of them corners where you're trying to get on the throttle and you just see the grass on the outside getting closer and closer. And if you dip a wheel in there, it is game over, but fair play. Very difficult move. Kyle Felvers looked like he's going to get the undercut going down Craner curves, but didn't quite get an overlap there. Ashley Beard's going to come back in front. Will Kyle Felvers have a little cheeky look up the inside going down towards the Old Hairpin? It's a very brave move. He doesn't. He tucks back in. This is where, if he can get the run here in the slipstream, this is a prime time move up here. How will Ashley Beard manage to defend this?
We've got a lot of new people in the chat, a lot of new people in the cards as well. Carl Felvers is only 14 people, so what you're looking at around the outside of McLean's is pure racing instinct by the 14-year-old. He's doing brilliantly against Beard. I was about to say I don't think he can do it around the outside of Coppice again, but he's going for it, and he's got a brilliant run. This is he's done exactly what I wanted to do, but I ended up in the kitty litter in Genettas. It's so embarrassing that he can get in here and do it so much better than me, but he's fantastic, this Carl Felvers, and he's only getting better and better as we see him at VRRC. He's got ahead of Beard. And this time they're not side by side over the start-finish line, but this is quite incredible. 2.5 minutes to go. McIntyre is behind Fletcher in the middle of these Altitude Esports cars. And I'll tell you what, if McIntyre, he'll be slightly disappointed, but he'll know that Fletcher and Dadswell, they're not here to make up numbers. They're here to play. They're here for a championship. And to be honest, although Brennan has checked out by 6 seconds, I think even he'll be probably a touch worried about the impact that Fletcher and Dadswell are having here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way Jack's driving at the moment, I've raced with Mark Fletcher as well, another very, very good pilot. So McIntyre's probably looking at this going, you know what, third place in race 1 in the BMW, which, let's face it, looks like it's struggling a little bit round Donington here. You know, it is a fantastic effort. Mark Fletcher driving the absolute wheels off it. But Dad's well be looking at that and go, well, Mark's probably got exactly the same car under him as what I do. I need to try and get past McIntyre as well and make this in altitude 2 and 3.
Yeah, and I did make a mistake before as well. With the full reverse grid, it won't be Kenny Press on pole. Any DNF cars will not be eligible for the reverse grid, so Thorpe and Press won't be there. It'll be Weston on pole. But we have to focus, yet again, on 7th place. It's an absolutely sensational race by these two. To be honest, I'd probably happily have an interview with these two rather than the podium sitters, I think. I'm sure, no, I'm kidding, obviously. The podium sitters will be lovely to chat to, as Dadswell is on the podium. But only just as McIntyre is getting a force around the outside. And just like Elvis with that whack of the rear end, he loves it, doesn't he? It's not Tokyo Drift, it's East Midlands Airport Drift, but still, we'll give it a go. As McIntyre holds on to that 3rd place, and look at Webb. Webb has come to play as he looks up the inside, but he's going to try and make it 3 wide. Oh no, it's going to be contact. McIntyre keeps it in a straight line. No, he isn't. He's sideways off the circuit. He's going to crash. No, he's not. He's going to J-turn it. So much stunt driving involved here as McIntyre hasn't managed to turn it in the right direction. Webb goes through. Dadswell in 3rd. Fletcher 2nd. Bugner into the top 5. And well, I suppose from McIntyre's perspective, he spanned for half the straight there, and he's still in 6th position. It's not going to be ideal for him, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, if I'm truly honest, I started to laugh there because he was going backwards down the straight, and I thought he was just going to J-turn it and act like nothing had happened there.
I thought he had. To be honest.
Honestly, as a moment in the car, to keep that out of the wall on the left there was such a big impact. Fair play to Jack Mack for keeping that. I was going to say in a straight line, but I mean, the way he J-turned that was fantastic. Fair play.
Yeah, Jordan Brennan then is on the last lap as he goes round Coppice, and as we said, you'd be forgiven for forgetting that he was even here. He's just been a name at the top of the timing tower for the majority of this time. We haven't seen him in the physical form for so long. But the Liqui Moly driver in the Volvo S40 is going to take the inaugural victory here at Donington Park and for the Power Max Super Touring Championship powered by VRRC. Fletcher comes across the line for a very well-deserved 2nd place after falling down to 5th at one point. Dadswell comes across in 3rd for what he feels had probably deserved, but came about slightly fortunately. Scott Bugner in 4th will definitely feel that it was probably slightly fortunate he got it. McIntyre and Webb come across the line. McIntyre did get into 5th position. I think, to be fair, I think Webb, maybe knowing he caused the incident, maybe slowed up to allow McIntyre past and Bugner as it happens as well. So if that is the case, very good sportsmanship. Zanatechi comes across the line in 12th position. So very quickly, before we run through the interviews, because there is a very tight timescale here at the Super Touring Championship on VRRC, we run a very tight broadcasting ship. John Brennan takes the victory. Fletcher in 2nd place. Dadswell in 3rd. Bugner in 4th with McIntyre in 5th. Webb, who we believe gave the places back, was in 6th. Carl Felvis in 7th ahead of Beard, which was absolutely sensational race in the last 5 minutes. Thorne in 9th position, with Will Powell actually recovering up to 10th. A very good drive by him as well. Luke Weston will be on pole position, finishing in 17th, but crucially being the last of the finishers. Thorpe and Press are DNF drivers, so therefore they are not eligible for the reverse grid. However, Dave, you have some drivers to talk to, and I imagine some very pleased drivers.
Yeah, we do indeed, and we'll go straight down to our P3 finisher in gold class, Tom Dadswell. It was all to do on the very, very last set of laps, and I tell you what a fantastic drive to try and follow your teammate Mark through and get past McIntyre before the finish.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, big thanks to Mark for that help on lap 2 or 3. That was good teamwork there. Yeah, those last couple of laps were a bit intense. I wasn't really too sure what happened down the straight or who caused it. If it was me, I'm sorry, I'm not too sure.
It was, I tell you what, it was carnage for a last lap, and it was a fantastic spectacle to see. But huge congratulations. Just quickly touch upon, it looked like really quite a difficult start. The BMW's getting a jump on a lot of the front wheel drives. Chris Shepherd, I don't know how far he came back from, but I take them BMWs are going to be really hard to defend off the line in the future.
Yeah, that's one thing I haven't really practiced too much is starting in this game because it's my first ever league in Assetto Corsa. Wasn't really too sure how the standard starts were going to work, but it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad at all, and it's a fantastic results finish for your first league on Assetto Corsa. A podium finish. Good luck in trying to get through the massive grid in this reverse grid race.
Cool, thank you.
I'll move forward onto his teammate Mark Fletcher, a P2 in the first championship for Altitude Esports on Assetto Corsa. And I tell you what, you must be fair happy with that drive.
Yeah, obviously I didn't get off the line as well as Tom did, but yeah, it's great. It's really different for us guys, so it's brilliant to race with some of the top racers here. And yeah, fair play to Jordan. I think I saw him once, which was going into the first corner.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it was. How was it to go and battle with the BMW? If you've seen many of the different characteristics that the car's got, it seemed like them rear wheel drives are particularly strong coming out of Coppice onto that back straight.
Yeah, I knew as soon as you can see the rear of the BMW moving them out a lot, and obviously when I got Jack, I saw it go sideways, and I thought I've got to go for this. I've raced with Jack for many years, so I knew it was always going to be clean. But yeah, it was great finish to have a double podium on our first outing, really.
Yeah, huge congratulations there, Mark, and really looking forward to seeing how you get on.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
I'll move forward on our P1 finisher of the silver class, Kyle Felvis. Fantastic drive there, really starting to mix it even amongst the gold drivers towards the end.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't actually realise I got P1 in silver class because it's so hard to tell like who's in which class. I didn't actually know. But that battle between me and Ashley at the end, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And for him to keep those soft tyres alive for the whole race, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely very impressive to see, but huge congratulations there, Kyle, on bringing home a P1 in silver class, and look forward to seeing what you can do from middle of the pack.
Thank you very much.
I'll move forward on our P1 finisher. I mean, we didn't actually see that much of you. You managed to open up quite a considerable gap there, Jordan, but I take it you knew you had to try and get back at McIntyre almost straight away to take away that advantage.
Yeah, he got the jump off the line, but then the Volvo started to come back into it at the end of the straight, so I was like, we're on the inside here, we'll just... well, we may as well go for it. But I had to do a lot of coasting in that race because I nearly ran out of fuel at the end of the finish. Yeah, I ran out of fuel on the end lap, so I just coasted all the way back to the finish.
Wow.
So I was struggling with that.
Well, I'll let you go refuel your car and get your head down, and let's see what you can do from right at the back of the grid.
Cheers, thanks.
And there we go, Jack. Managed to get through 4 drivers just before race 2, and I tell you what, it's full reverse grid. I simply don't know what's going to happen here.
Whenever you bring in Carl Felvis, we're sort of used to the big, deep voices of everybody else we ever interview, and then all of a sudden Carl comes on. It's astonishing to think that he is only 14, isn't it? Really, he not only drives with great maturity, he speaks with it as well.
I mean that racing with Ashley Beard, and let's not take credit away Ashley Beard as well.
Oh, Beard was brilliant.
Shown equal amount of race and respect there, but so far, let's see what happens in race 2. But for me, driver of the round at the moment is between them 2 drivers. Fantastic racing.
Yeah, I think it's got to be. And obviously, a lot of people might say Brennan, but really, when you're that quick, it's easy, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. I am obviously kidding. We'll see what he gets up to in race number 2, because race 2 with the reverse grid is quite often where we see the driver of the day come to the floor, basically. If you're out there and you want to, if you think you know someone who deserves driver of the day, drop it in the chat, because we'd love to hear from you as well. But first of all, we've got to get this race started. We've got to get the engine notes up. We have the lights on, and we are about to get racing for the Super Touring Championship with Luke Weston on pole position, along with Chris Shepherd, 2 rear-wheel drives, getting an absolute thunderous start towards the first corner. The rest of the field, Phil Regan included, will be a little bit left for dust, but you can be assured that halfway through this lap, Phil Regan will probably be right back there with Weston and Shepherd. But I don't think Smith will be, as he gets turned around. And to be fair, I'm not entirely sure how he did it, but I think he's facing in the right direction. He seems to have got T-boned round, then turned back round, which is quite sensational stuff. And Smith is fighting for 12th position down Craner curves, and he's going to have to shake that one off really quickly. He's getting a little bit of a taste of what it's like to race in sim racing, and it doesn't matter what you drive on, whether it's a Assetto Corsa or iRacing or real life or anything. If you're racing touring cars, you're bound to get hit. But hopefully, we'll keep it clean as... Who's that? It's Weston up. Weston, our pole position man, and another driver flying off the outside, who I believe was Kenny Press, potentially. Not entirely sure, but he's at the back of the field, so I'm guessing so. So Nicky Taylor is now leading this race from Chris Shepherd. There's more chaos through Coppice, and I don't know, I think Beard is one of them as a driver gets flown off on the outside, and I believe that's Chris Shepherd. Chris Shepherd is off the circuit as they go down towards the the final chicane for the first time, I should say. I think Cal Felvers is in the race lead, but it's very difficult to tell at the moment because some people may have spawned back to the pit. In fact, it is Carl Felvers, but it is a safety car. And Dave, I don't know about you, but that was pretty much impossible to follow.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost like watching a real British touring car event.
Yeah, I suppose it was.
What I couldn't believe was, it going through Old Hairpin, I could be wrong in saying this, McIntyre was up to 5th place on lap 1, so... an incredible start, and you can see the difference, the rear-wheel drive of McIntyre all the way up through their positions, whereas you look at the likes of Brennan and Fletcher are a good few positions further back. So I know he obviously finished a little bit further back than in race 1, but I tell you what, that Beamer seems to really have the advantage on them opening laps to get that car switched on and really make some places.
Yeah, so let's just run through the positions while we've got the safety car, because I think, if nothing else, the safety car's put out just so we can have a recovery more than anything else. Carl Felvers is in first place. Will Powell, who I believe has started about 10th, is up to 2nd, brilliantly. Paul Zanetechi, inspired by Oscar, very obviously stands out, with Ashley Beard in 4th, Thorne in 5th place, Taylor in 6th, McIntyre in 7th, as I believe Felvers is about to get them underway. We only have a very short safety car period here. With sim racing, you don't need to repair any barriers or anything, which is one of the most useful things. I'll finish out the top 10. Hobson in 8th, Webb in 9th, and Bugner in top 10 as the safety car lights are off, which means Felvers can get us back underway. It's a good jump on Will Powell. I'm not sure how the rest of the field are doing, but I think Felvers actually nailed that restart and actually probably did it in the safest place for everybody else as well, to be honest, accelerating out of the final chicane about halfway through, but he's under pressure here from Will Powell, who has shown that he's got good race pace under the bonnet of that S40, sorry, not V40. Let's see how he gets on as they go down Craner curves. They have pulled away slightly from Zanetechi, who hasn't got the most amount of pace, so may find himself as a little bit of a bottleneck. But that is Luke Weston in the wall again. The BMW is serving itself as not the easiest car to handle, clearly, here at the opening couple of corners of Donington.
He's gone
as Will Powell goes for a massive lunge into McLean's and a little bit touching on the back end as well as they come out the corner, but nothing, in my opinion, that is anyway dirty. He was just showing a little bit of alpha male dominance there on Carl Felvers, thinking, I've had this corner, just move out my way slightly, because I'm not letting up here. Zanetechi's lining up a move on Felvers. We've seen Felvers drive so maturely. What can he pull out here? Zanetechi going to the outside of the final chicane. He's trying to brake late as well, but Felvers defending really well, exactly where he needed to put the car as Ashley Beard sees Felvers, sees his playmate, and wants to get up there.
Yeah, we've got 4 cars properly hungry for a first place here. You can see Kyle Felvers moving left, moving right, and I tell you what, Paul Zanetechi is having a look. Kyle's going to have to be careful here, because if he goes to remove that, it's not going to quite work on Will Powell. He's losing momentum, and Paul Zanetechi is there waiting to pounce. Ashley B, we've seen how well he races as well. He is hungry for this as well. So Will Powell under quite considerable pressure here. Maybe he lost the back end a little bit there going to Old Hairpin, but there's a car off in the background. background, that's Scott Bugner in the Primera off the old hairpin, and I tell you what, that's allowed a good 5 cars to get up the inside of it now. So Scott Bugner's got a bit of a catch-up game, but the advantage is this grid is still very, very tight and close together, and positions can still be made here.
Yeah, Powell then trying to defend a little bit from Carl Felvers, who's got a really good run through the second half of this lap, hasn't he? He's shaken off Zanetechi just a touch or enough, basically, to really think forwards rather than backwards. And it's helped by the fact that Beard is putting Zanetechi under all kinds of pressure. Thorn there, so just for the vibes, really. He's trying to get in there to make some kind of moves, but realistically, he's watching the two in front of him and thinking, well, if they take each other out, then I'm in with a free place here. So let's just chillax and try and see how this race goes. Because, of course, we've got 14.5 minutes left. Felvis will know that. Powell will know that, but Powell, I'm sure, will be sweating a little bit more as Mark Fletcher gets up the inside of Nicky Taylor. Fletcher, obviously, second place in race number 1, trying to get back onto that podium as soon as he possibly can, and not wasting around. Doesn't want to have to wait 14 minutes to move through the order. You know how things can change as Nicky Taylor flies off the outside of Old Hairpin. That is something that, yeah, it's just about a safe rejoin. I can say a lot about a lot of crashes around a lot of British circuits, and I can't say I've ever done one there. Nicky Taylor and Phil Regan, and Taylor comes back across the track as well. I'll tell you what, Jack Smith, round of applause, because how you avoided the spinning V40 there is quite sensational. Really good awareness by Jack Smith. That'll put him in good stead if he can keep that sort of thing going throughout the championship.
Yeah, it will indeed. It's reactions like that win championships. Will Powell with the slow run through the last chicane there, though. This is going to allow Kyle Felvers. Bull-up behind him. Paul Zanetechi is also about a level with actually Kyle Felvers. This is going to be a case of who's latest on the brakes. Ashley Beard's going to try and go around the outside. In fact, Paul Zanetechi is trying to go around the outside of all of them. Will Powell's going to try and follow Kyle Felvers down through Craters, but has Paul found a gap? He is. Paul's found a gap up into P2 ahead of Will Powell. Will Powell now down to 3rd place, and Ashley Beard right on the bumper. And I tell you what, look who's in the background. Jack Mack up into P5.
Yeah, Jack Mack obviously in the BMW. Apart from Jack Mack, every one of the top 9 is a Volvo S40. Top 10 even is a Volvo S40. Will Powell going into 2nd place, but Zanetechi getting him back. I'm surprised there's not been more contact. Oh, I'll tell you what, Zanetechi, that is a quite amazing car control, keeping his foot flat in it. One of the advantages of front-wheel drive, of course, you get a bit of a tap on the rear end, just keep your foot in it, it'll probably end up okay. It'll probably end up in a straight line. Altitude Esports right up there, though. Here comes Fletcher and Beard. Beard up the inside. It's going to be an ambitious move, as one is not going to come off, as McIntyre really shows his sim experience. Just launches it up the inside there, the Rocket Sim Sport driver, and makes himself into 6th position. Thorn is the cork in the bottle, and probably the thorn in the side of a lot of these drivers. McIntyre goes for a move on 3 drivers at once. He doesn't quite get past Thorn, but I'll tell you what, he gets past Webb. He nudges him off the circuit for good measure as well. As Altitude Esports driver Beard trumps across. Brennan's gone through. Dadswell's gone through on Webb as well, so those drivers are involved with this one as they come down. Crane occurs. It's hard to keep up with this one. All we know is it's absolutely amazing.
This is absolutely fantastic driving. It's wheel to wheel, absolutely action packed. As Paul Zanetechi is trying to get, Mark Fletcher has got past Paul Zanetechi up into 2nd place. So Mark Fletcher, right from the back of the grid, has got himself up into P2. Paul Zanetechi obviously not battling directly for this category, so Paul doing a very good job. P2 in his class, Will Powell 3rd in his class. I tell you what, Scott Thorne has got himself through the grid as well, currently sat in P5 or P4 in his class. Jack Mack, it's got that feeling of going down Craters when the pack is that tight. Jack, you know all too well from your brother in real life in that BMW British Touring car. The rear-wheel drive definitely has that disadvantage with them little taps, a little unsettle of the car, and you don't have that throttle to try and recover that slide, and it can leave the BMWs or the rear-wheel drives very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, I think he became victim of that about 5 or 6 or 7 times actually this season, and people just nudging the rear-wheel drives out of the way. But the less said about last season, the better, I think, in my opinion. We'll focus on what's in front of us. Felvers in the race lead, doing a brilliant job, but Fletcher, you can't help but think Fletcher's in with a really good shout here as Brendan goes up the inside of McIntyre. These are 2 champions going at each other right now. It's a little break there by McIntyre. why that is. Maybe he didn't think he could quite lunge it up the inside with Coppers. Maybe he didn't trust the back end of the BMW somewhat. Entirely sure on that one, Dave.
Yeah, so Jack's got a very smart head when it comes to thinking of championships, and I think he knows the fastest way he's got a chance of gaining onto the back of these drivers.
Here comes Fletcher, sorry.
In front. Mark Fletcher's managed to get the run through the chicane. In fact, that is such a pace differential that actually it's job done down to turn 1, hasn't needed to defend, and Mark Fletcher in the lead. I'll jump back quickly about what I was saying about McIntyre. He'll be thinking if he starts to battle with Brennan there, that's going to lose them time. Brennan has obviously got a little bit more pace in that car, so what he's done is he's braked, he's tucked in. Brennan now knows McIntyre wasn't a threat for the next corner, and that both get the head down. You can see they're already starting to close onto the back of this pack in front. So that, to me, very smart driving from a championship driver.
Under 10 minutes to go, then I'm not entirely sure how anybody's nerves or my voice can take it as a lunge up the inside there by Brennan on Thorne. I'll tell you what, Thorne didn't look defensive. Maybe he just thought that Brennan wasn't going to do it, but Brennan thought, you know what, you're going to leave me half a gap, I'll make it 1.5 gaps. Thank you very much, take the position off you. McIntyre trying to get the run as well, because you said before, Dave, realistically, he wants to follow Brennan as closely as he possibly can. When he gets through, he needs to be close enough to push through as well. So let's see if McIntyre can get through on Thorne really rather quickly. The good run through the final chicane was going to be the answer, but McIntyre didn't get the good run through the final chicane, so it's not going to be an overtake by him just yet. And his old adversary, Webb, is coming up behind him. Obviously, there was a contact in the first race between Webb and McIntyre and Dadswell, actually, who the three of them are basically together again, which is quite entertaining to watch from our perspective. Hopefully they all know each other well enough now that they're not going to make any contact. I'm sure they probably didn't mean to make contact in the first place, to be fair. Brennan on Will Powell, as we said before. Will Powell did an amazing job. He was up from about 10th into 2nd. Alright, he may be moving a little bit further back down the grid now, but it's still a really good drive. As here comes Jordan Brennan. And sometimes, Dave, when a driver is on a mission like Brennan is, you think Ash Sutton on half the touring car races, there's no real stopping him, no matter how much you'd like to try. But look at that, the easy pace differential there to go around the outsiders of these drivers. He's on a different planet right now with Brennan. That machine is hooked up to perfection as Powell gets a poor run out of Coppice down towards the final chicane. It's not going to be an overtake on source for Thorne, but if Powell goes that deep into the corner, he gets a little bit of a nudge up the backside, and well, that's Powell going too wide, taking too much speed into the corner, maybe going for a lunge. Didn't come off, so Thorne and McIntyre and Webb have all gone through on Powell, but Powell's going to defend up the inside. Here comes the Altitude Esports cars of Dadswell and Beard as well, who just come off the boil a little bit somewhat, so they're not quite as quick as they once were. I'm sure they'll be very keen to try and take advantage of any missed opportunities as they come their way, as McIntyre's still stuck behind Thorne, but this is Webb, Powell and Dadswell.
Yeah, so I think the other thing to bear in mind is you've got to look at this in the individual championships, and for all Will Powell's starting to lose a few positions here, these are gold drivers that he's going to know outright a little bit faster on the pace than him. But actually, if you look at it in his championship positions, there's only Paul Zanetechi and Kyle Felvers that's actually above him, that's in his class. So he's currently P3, and if he can think of that and not lose too much more time, these are in really good standing. As actually Paul Zanetechi is starting to close on the back of Kyle Felvers. This is fantastic to see. So Paul Zanetechi really battling for not only P1 in his class, but a P2 overall here, with Brennan actually closing very, very quickly in behind.
Yeah, if Brennan gets through, he'll probably, if he can do it within the next lap or so, he'll have an opportunity to catch Fletcher, but Fletcher really has done brilliantly since getting through, as McIntyre gets through on Thorne. So McIntyre goes through, and here comes Webb on Will Powell, and I think Will Powell will have the inside for the old hairpin. Webb does carry a lot of speed and just enough racing room, to be fair, for him to fit his Volvo at the inside, and brilliant driving by Webb. Powell and Dadswell will start fighting, I'm sure, as Brennan goes through on Zanetechi. So Zanetechi's fight forward on Felvers was short-lived, and Brennan now having to really put the hammer down to try and catch Felvers up, and I'm sure Zanetechi will probably be hoping that they hold each other up.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'd be hoping for. I imagine he didn't make it too difficult for Jordan to try and get past there, thinking that if Jordan get a little bit closer onto the back of Kyle Felvers and they start to battle, this can play into Paul Zanetecchi's hands. So very, very smart driving again from Paul Zanetecchi. We're seeing McIntyre starting to make progress now onto the back of these three, and actually Brennan's through, so Brennan's through on Kyle Felvers. Now it's Kyle Felvers and Paul Zanetecchi back together. Will Powell is actually right stuck in the middle of the battle between some Altitude Esport guys here, so this is a great little battle mid-pack again. The driving we're seeing here is absolutely action-packed.
Yeah, Beard gets through on Powell after Powell was overtaken by Dadswell in the previous lap, and there we go, Powell goes wide. So I think that Jack Smith will probably have that move done and dusted as well, and he does. So Smith into the top 10, Will Powell falls down to 11th place, and although he came 10th in the first race, and although he qualified in 9th or 10th, I can't quite remember off the top of my head now, it is an 11th place for him right now. We'll see if he can fight a little bit further forward as we go into the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Zanetecchi is right back up to the backside of Felvers, meaning that Brennan probably did hold Felvers up just a touch. As they go down towards the final chicane yet again, Kyle is having to defend really rather hard. Paul tries to take the slightly more conventional racing line, but because Felvers had slowed up so much on the first apex, Zanetecchi couldn't get on the power early enough, and I think that's allowed McIntyre to come into the party and have a little play as well, while McIntyre goes very wide on the entry into T1 to try and sweep around both of them, but to be honest, he's getting held up as Felvers, again, going very defensive through a lot of these corners. Webb and Thorne just swap positions for 6th and 7th. And there we go, in fact, confirmation as we can just search slightly further forward. There we go, back onto the backside of Zanetecchi, who's got a headache in the form of Jack McIntyre.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is fantastic racing between these drivers. Paul Zanetecchi, interestingly enough, is actually on the hard compound of tyre, so it's really interesting to see Zanetecchi doing a similar lap time and having similar sort of grip at this stage in the race compared to Kyle Felvers. So Kyle Felvers is either driving very, very well indeed on very worn tyres, or Paul Zanetecchi's tyres and maybe not quite switching on as good as they could have done if he'd been on the mediums. That's a little look into the chicane. I imagine that's going to lose Paul Zanetecchi a little bit of time. And here's McIntyre. Look at that rear wheel drive, really getting the pull out, but that's good defensive driving out the chicane down towards turn 1, and McIntyre's at the back out of that, and look at how much time that's cost him.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at the it's Dadswell going past Thorne. I'm actually looking at the gap between the top two and the lap times that they're putting in as well. Jordan Brennan on that last lap about half a second quicker, so he is closing fast, but he's only got about 2.5 minutes left. What a camera angle we have brought to us here by Tom O'Farrell as they go through Old Hairpin. Oh, McIntyre getting a little bit of corrective oversteer at the exit of Old Hairpin. I can tell you that is just one of the most sensational feelings with a little bit of oversteer through Old Hairpin. Foot flat to the floor in a rear wheel drive car is absolutely awesome as they come up towards McLean's. Try and clip that second apex, a late apex, so you can straighten up the corner and get the power down, especially in this front wheel drive and in this rear wheel drive BMW over coppice. Always difficult. Don't know when to get the power down because you can run wide or you can go narrow. Now, I imagine if you're a front wheel drive, you want to go narrow. In a rear wheel drive, you want to probably run wide. Although, Dave, you're probably about to tell me that that's the opposite way round.
No, it completely on driver preference. Some drivers...
Juice Pap! McIntyre's gone round! McIntyre under his own fuel, and that's exactly the crash that I've done, actually. But anyway, McIntyre completely under his own under fuselage has ended up flying off the circuit as Felvers defends on Zanetecchi. And as we saw it from that perspective, Dave, it looked like McIntyre just didn't judge the distance and the race speed quite right and ended up tapping the driver in front. The other drivers have survived it. But for now, we have to focus on Zanetecchi bouncing over the curb, his car hopping and sliding as Felvers goes for Old Hairpin. But what a cutback here by Zanetecchi, and Webb goes past Felvers as well. I tell you what, that was one for the replay. I hope that these guys watch that back and are proud of their driving there, because they drove it to within an inch of their life, an inch of the racing respect line, and they all did it fantastically.
What an absolute stellar move down into Old Hairpin. Such commitment to go from the outside close to the grass to judge the braking just right to get the undercut. What a fantastic move that was with inches to spare. Jack Mack all the way down now in P13. It's proven that rear wheel drive is just not quite as forgiving as these front wheel drives. That's obviously completely expected, but I tell you what, what piloting that was. A little bit of oversteer here and there, just managing the oversteer. Fantastic driving of that car.
Yeah, as we're looking at Zanatechi going through on Webb, that's more of a defensive move, to be honest. Zanatechi had lost the position, and now he's having to hold off the driver. This is a front of podium for Zanatechi, isn't it, really?
This will be the last lap, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah, only 18 seconds. Oh, goodness, it has flown by, hasn't it? Fletcher is quite a way up the road. Let's have a look where he is. Yeah, he's about to go through Coppice, so yeah, 10 seconds to go. This will be the last lap as Felvis trying to hold off Dadswell. Webb trying to go for that sweeping racing line on Zanatachi, who's going a little bit narrow as Dadwell flies off the circuit with the rear left tyre, and Zanatachi's still in the race. Still in third place as we are on the final lap. Fletcher's coming up to the final corner, I can tell you. Brennan hasn't done enough to catch up to him. And there is Mark Fletcher. So it's a second place and the first place for him on a successful opening round here at Donington Park. Brennan does the reverse, gets a first and then a second here at the Super Touring Championship. Those two are the championship protagonists as Zanatachi completes the top three. Webb in fourth, Belvis in fifth, Dadswell in sixth. Thorne comes across the line ahead of Beard that time, so seventh and eighth. Then Jack Smith with an improved drive is in ninth, and Will Powell, it did actually get into the top 10 in the end, but that's because of Jack McIntyre's excursion into the tyre barrier. Ends up in 13th position. Phil Regan in 14th. Kenny Press in 15th. Luke Weston and Simon Thorpe 16th and 17th. Luke Hobson, our only driver who ended up not finishing the race, and I believe that's probably because of the cause of the safety car. Wow, everybody take a break, because of course we do need to make sure that we're taking in driver of the day, Dave, because we just need to take a breath. My vote, personally, is Carl Felvis. It's arguably between himself and Beard for the first race, but Beard finished a lot further down. Maybe didn't quite have the race that Felvis did in the second one, but Zanatachi did a brilliant job as well, I thought, in that second race. But I just think over the two, my vote would probably go to Felvis.
Yeah, I've got to admit, for consistency and outright fantastic racing, Kyle has done a fantastic job here tonight to take home driver of the round. So fantastic driving from him. Meanwhile, we'll go straight down to our podium position finishes, and I tell you what, it's P3 in the overall grid, but also first place in the silver category. Paul Zanatechi. It was very, very close towards the end, but just managed to hold on there all the way to the line. What a fantastic race that was.
Yeah, that was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was Carl that was in front of me for most of that race, and I could not get past. I had a little bit of pace, but not enough to do anything about it. And then yeah, at the end, I think it must have been the gold guys that just caught us, and I was getting swamped left, right, and centre, and I was just doing my best. But yeah, it was tough. Enjoyed it. It was good.
I've got to ask quickly, that move you pulled on the old hairpin, that must have been millimetres close from the back of Carl's car to get that undercut, but it was an absolute crucial move that put a gold standard car between you and Kyle Felvers battling towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I set the move up. I was planning just to pull him behind Kyle, but I think just he ran a bit deep, and to try and avoid hitting the back of him, I turned tighter right than I normally would have done, and that just, I think it's a bit of luck, to be honest, but I'll take that.
Well, I would take credit and say I perfectly meant that, but fair play for your honesty there, Paul, and huge congratulations, not only managing to get first in class, but a P3 finish overall as well. Stellar result.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Dave.
I'll move forward on our P2 finisher, Jordan Brennan. It was a difficult start, and I tell you what, it looked like it was really hard to try and get through the pack for at least the first half of that race.
Yeah, I really struggled with connection on that one. Every time I got near a car, I was just sort of teleporting all over the place, so it was a bit... I was like, do I go for a move, or do I just sit behind him? But it was a hard one to judge, but yeah, I'm happy with P2.
Yeah, I mean, a fair good result. Bear in mind you were Doctor Who in a bit there, but I tell you what, there was different tyre strategies going on in the grid here. There was some people on soft, some people on mediums. Paul Zanatechi there managing to work the tyres on hards. Are you seeing much difference in the compound of tyres to make it stretch over them 20 minutes, or?
the medium seat, you could get the same lap time out of them throughout the whole race, pretty much. It's just towards the end, through the longer corners, the fronts sort of go a bit, but there wasn't much of a drop off on them, to be fair.
Oh, fair enough. It's just good to get a little bit of an insight from the drivers there regarding the tyres there. So, huge congratulations on taking a P2 finish. And I tell you what, it's looking like it's going to be a really, really good championship battle between you and we've got our P1 finisher, Mark Fletcher. I mean, a role reversal from race 1. What a stellar drive. Managed just to get through that grid a little bit quicker and get that nice safety buffer all the way towards the end of that race.
Oh, mate, I didn't think we'd be speaking again. I'll put it that way. My task there was to follow Jordan through. But yeah, I think I got a bit of a better launch. I'm going to watch lap 1 and 2 again because there were some outrageous moves. I think I overtook like 5 cars going up to the 2 right-handers at the top. And luckily I spotted an altitude car on the inside, so I knew that I wasn't going to get run off the road. But yeah, what a fantastic race, and yeah, what a fantastic start to the season that I've had.
Yeah, I mean, I was just said to Jordan Brennan, it looks like it's going to be one of them championships where, you know, Jordan had a little bit more pace in race 1, but you've managed to get through the grid a bit quicker in race 2, and it should mean that actually championship points-wise, it's looking very, very close indeed between you and Jordan. Ready, this is looking like a championship long battle.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I met Jordan at Modified Live this weekend, and he's a cracking lad. But as you've said, he's definitely got the pace. We did a lot of testing, I think, as a team. Obviously, we're new to this, so I think we did near on sort of 800 laps testing, just to get used to the sim. But yeah, fair play to him. The man has got incredible speed, and I will be holding on for dear life for the next 5 rounds.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how you manage that. Huge congratulations, Mark, on bringing home a P1 here in race 2, and really looking forward to seeing how you do next round out.
Cheers, Dave. Thanks a lot.
And there we go, Jack. All of our podium sitters, and I tell you what, it has really, really returned an absolutely action-packed night in racing, hasn't it?
It has indeed. I mean, you can just see the points tally on your screen now. I mean, Jordan Brennan on 40, Mark Fletcher with 37. Obviously, they shared a 1-2 between them in both races, but obviously Jordan Brennan with those fastest laps in pole position means that he has achieved that 40 points. Then you got Dadswell and Matt Webb a little bit further back, but still close for 3rd place. Scott Bugney, you could argue, is probably there as well. Ashley Beard did really well in 6th. One person who's probably not very happy with how it got in the end, really, Jack McIntyre, very much used to being in the top 3. Chris Shepherd probably less so as well. He ended up in 9th. But if you look at that silver, real dominant display by Kyle Felvis and Paul Zanatachi. Really looking forward to seeing how that one plays out throughout the rest of the season. Scott Thorne, a driver who we mentioned quite a lot, but not really shouting about him, having the podiums, is in 3rd place. He scored real consistent points. So that is a good showing from them, and obviously you can see all the way down the order. And it just occurred to me as well, Dave, that obviously the driver of the round gets a Power Max Valeting kit. We've given it to Carl Felvis, who legally isn't allowed to own a car. But still, I'm sure his family will appreciate the Power Max Valeting kit.
I'm sure his dad will. I'm sure his dad will.
Exactly. They'll save it for the next 4 years, let's say. But no, it's been a really good evening. We did forget to actually ask about the audience members' participation in the driver of the round. That is something we like to do, so if you're still watching this, please do make sure you carry on suggesting those sort of things throughout the next 5 rounds. And we'll be honest, Dave, the race just got away from us, didn't it? There was so much action packed. Normally we're actually waiting to have to ask the driver of the round because sometimes there's a little bit of a lull in the racing, but it didn't feel like any lull was available.
Where did them 20 minutes go? To be fair, where did both races go? But that last race with the full reverse grid race, it was only in them last 5 minutes where them people starting right at the back actually started to pull the way back through the grid. So I tell you what, this going on to some of the smaller tracks is going to be absolutely chaotic, and can't wait to see what action it brings.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have enjoyed what you've seen tonight here at Donington, then you'll be ecstatic to know that next week we actually go to the fastest circuit in Europe. It's not Monza, it is a brilliant Thruxton. It's pretty much flat out for what, about 80% of the lap, and the rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive dynamic is going to be even more obvious and even sort of more advantages in certain parts of the track. So really looking forward to seeing how they fly through Church, that's for sure, and into the final chicane. That's going to be very entertaining. I'm sure it'll be a very fun hot lap for you to film as well, Dave, to be honest. But if you're looking forward to seeing that, then by all means, make sure that you are tuning into the Academy tomorrow, Wednesday, 10th of November, about the same time, 7:20, maybe 5 minutes later, because of course it's the second round of the Clio Cup, and we're going to Silverstone. So a lot of the drivers that you saw in the silver category and a few in the gold category are all part of the Academy. And I tell you what, the racing doesn't die down because it's a slightly lower, well, it's hard to say really, because I wouldn't say it's a lower standard of driving, to be honest, but it has been drivers mainly for improvement purposes is the Academy.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. It's all about driver development, and it's very, very, to me, much proved the Academy is doing exactly what it's designed to do. We have Paul Zanetechi, who, you know, is a relatively new driver to Assetto Corsa and sim racing, joined the Academy and look, managed to get a P3 overall, as well as Kyle Velvers, who has also got driver of the round just gone. Both Academy drivers, both silver drivers. So if that's a bit of you, make sure you tune in to watch Academy or get involved. It's not too late. There's still spaces on both the Super Touring and the Academy grid for people to come in and get racing. Fantastic.
Yeah, the Clio is really exciting to watch, but I think it's probably about that time that we say good night, Dave, isn't it? I mean, obviously there's the full calendar and everything. That's what we've all got to look forward to for the next 6 weeks. Thuxton, Snetterton, Alton Park, Silverstone National and Brands at GP. But I think we can all agree that Donington Park has been a quite brilliant opening round.
Yeah.
However, it's that time to say goodbye. So, from me, Jack Oliphant, and Dave Marshall in the Virtual Commons box, Tom O'Farrell as well on the broadcast, doing a brilliant job as ever. It's a big good night. Thank you very much for everybody who's watched, who's liked, who's subscribed, who's just sat there and silently judged us and the drivers amongst you. Doesn't matter who you are, it's been brilliant hosting you tonight. You've been watching the PowerMax Super Touring Championship powered by VRRC. We can't wait to see you tomorrow and next week, of course. Good night.
Between the two of them,
The inside of coats.
Marcus gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.